Welcome to Panda Studios. Now you're here, join the Panda Force, and hit that subscribe button. Today we're talking about 86.
And specifically, we are talking about the first episode of 86, which introduces us to the world of the Republic of San Magnolia, and we get a really solid explanation of this war that's going on, and how there are these, drone fights breaking out all over the place. But luckily, because they're drones, there's no casualties. And we learn all of that through this character called Major Melise. She's also commonly referred to as Lena throughout the show. I think the only time she's referred to as Major Melise is in two instances that are very official in nature. Through her, we learn that in fact that the drones are not in fact unmanned, that there are human beings in them, and it is her job as what is referred to as a handler to give these units this unit that she's in charge of various combat information like enemy location, where they're moving, are they in firing range, these types of things. And through her story, after we first see her being in command of this unit called Squadron 3, she then very quickly gets promoted, so she's in charge of the what's referred to, I believe, as the 1st Battalion or something like that. Their unit is most commonly referred to as Spearhead. They are the front of the front lines. And their leader's nickname is Reaper, which I very much enjoy, especially since the latter half of the episode is where we get to follow Spearhead and get to see how that unit interacts with each other and how they live in this sort of very differing lifestyles. And we get some combat scenes, which I very well done in my opinion. And we also get to see why Reaper has this nickname, at least briefly. We don't get a full explanation of it, but we do get this one scene where it's like, oh, that is why people call him Reaper. And overall, I think in regards to a first episode, I think this was really well done. You get very good world building, at least at a base level. And then the introductions for Lena and Reaper and how they live their lives and interact with people, I think is a good starting point.
That's where I really praise this episode. This is a really good show in the sense of how it hooks you, and just the world building. The first little tiny bit of world building you see is Lena walking to at the point in time, you don't know where she's walking to, but she's walking to the headquarters, and she sees a giant cliched fascist. Every time there's a fascist thing in any kind of TV show or movie or whatever, there's just, for some reason, there's jumbotrons where the news is just playing and everyone just stops and listens to it all.
Well, she's the only one that actually stops and listens to it. Everyone else is still walking about their day.
Yeah, that's fair. But of course, you're seeing through her. But whatever. Ultimately, and it's the reporter is wearing a military uniform, so you know that this society is ultra militaristic.
Yeah.
And you get a sense of how everyone is just going about their day, and she's well, of course it's how that would work. She's the one who sees things differently, and you get that all right there. And then the next time they get to reinforce that is when she's actually in the headquarters and she hears other controllers or other handlers talking, and just they're drunk and they're saying offensive and derogatory, very derisive terms about the 86, or specifically the drones. Because they don't refer to them as 86, they don't personify them at all.
Yeah, they're either referred to as drones or processors. In regards to the other military officials, that's how they refer to the 86ers.
Yeah, and then they reinforce that even more when she meets with her commander, one of the complaints he has to her is that she writes down her casualties.
Yeah.
And he says since we're not fighting with people, we don't have casualties.
Yeah.
And then she argues that this is wrong and all the stuff that like a rational person should feel about this very military system of we are all hunky dory and nobody's dying because war ain't a bad thing right now.
I mean, tell a lie often enough to a large group of people, they eventually believe it.
Double speak at its best.
Yeah.
War is peace. And then you get a really good sense of like the way the world works, and when you see though in the world building on the other end, and through the spearhead of what they deal with, of this really awesome scene where there's a battle, and then the leader of the Spear Reaper, he's just hearing like after they win the battle, you see one of his soldiers, one of the other drones, it just gets shredded with bullets.
Yeah.
And you just hear this guy like begging for his life, and it's not one of those cliche things. Even though like a lot of those cliches, like if you read war journals or people talking about war, listen to any of their testimony, that those cliches happen. Like,
yeah.
People cry for their mommy all the time. But I still that's what I liked about those. It still felt very authentic because he's like, I don't want to die. Like he still has like this. He's still trying to hold on to life, even though he
even knows it.
Yeah, and when Reaper walks up to him, you see him just pull out his gun and get it ready and just shoot him, and it looks so cold, but you can tell like that's one of the things I love is like the duality between the two main characters to where she's like this optimistic person in the world where everyone is cold. And then it's the other way around where you have all these characters in their world, in the 86 world, where when you see them, like, they're at, like, first time you meet them, they're actually at, like, a dinner, just having bombastic conversations of saying all sorts of lively things and just trying to make the best of it because they constantly comment that they could die tomorrow.
Yeah.
So they're trying to live their best life. And how he is actually so mindlessly cold, like, he appears to be mindlessly cold, even though, like, you can tell that like, that's an act of mercy. That's, like, a way he can care, because clearly they're not seen as people, so they're not going to have good medical care or any access. They're not going to be able to take him anywhere. There's going to be you don't have a medical drone for when they're all drones.
Yeah. And, like, what I gotta say, like, what I really like about those two characters is, what I found very fun and interesting is, so Lena lives in District 1, where she has the freedom and the ability to be emotionally open and have emotional outbursts and do all of the things we see her do. And there's no real repercussions for that. Like, she's not on a battlefield. She's not actually leading people. The worst that happens... From the front, I should say. But, like, the worst thing that's going to happen to her is someone tells her, like, hey... here's a slap on the wrist, knock it off. People are getting tired of your rhetoric. Like, that's the worst that's going to happen to her. But on the other side of it, with Reaper, like, he actually, I feel like they did this great job of, like, making him appear cold. And like you said, he's not, when he ends his friend's life, like, it is an act of mercy. But we also get to see that those around him that interact with him on the daily know he cares, because in that breakfast scene of some of the things they're talking to Reaper in a very friendly and jovial manner, and the act of mercy that he takes for his friend. And after that, like, all of the juggernauts, which are the mechs that they all pilot, is what they're called.
Really awesome spider robots.
Yeah, so cool. But he takes off, they all have their own little, like, emblems or insignias on them, and he takes off the fallen comrades, and at the end of the episode, we see him carve his friend's name into the back of it. Like, he is actually a surprisingly caring individual. It's just because he leads the unit, he doesn't have really that option to have emotional outbursts, to really let emotion drive him. He kind of has to keep an analytical or almost cold mindset because like it's talked about, they could die tomorrow. If he sort of loses that, if he loses himself to emotions and doesn't take good awareness of the battle situation, he could risk more lives.
Well, that's actually why the way I saw it is much like when Lena is talking to her original squad. She's being all nice to them, and they're like sarcastically quipping back at her, and by still saying, sounding like they very appreciate what she's saying. But when they're talking to him, they're acting like they're poking at him and prod at him with all this jovial stuff. When it feels like they're doing the exact same thing, they're coming at him like he's not, because and it makes sense for that. Like if the leader is like panicking in a battle situation, it's gonna spread. So he can't have that. So they're kind of poking at him about that, much like doing what little they can in their position because he is the leader and they clearly respect him because it's playful prodding. It's not prodding like how earlier when Lena made fun of.
When Lena's getting made fun of, she's being made fun of. When Reaper's team is joking with him, they're joking with him. There's sort of that difference. Like it's a condescension, kind of like with Kirk and Spock, where Kirk's always trying to be like, Vulcans are emotional, and you're all like, you emotion is a great thing. It's that like that's kind of what they're doing to him, trying to pull it, because they in future episodes they comment on how he is very emotionless and all this stuff. But it's just like, so I mean, I saw that right away. I saw him being, and they were going at him like that because that's what you would do. You have like the good like leaders have to get their piss taken out of them. Like they just have to know when to assert themselves and all that. Like, or else your people just completely are like mindlessly disciplined when it's like they're not in combat. They just finished combat. They're supposed to be relaxing. You want them to get that. You want them all to be part of like the group. Yeah. The other like subtle thing I really loved, and it's half of it is talked about and the other half is shown, is actually we find out in District 1, Lena has this friend that's part of the R&D department, and they're talking about like this chiffon cake that she made or something like that, and how she used real ingredients to make it. And Lena makes a comment that she's unsure if that's even how the cake really tasted because she's eaten synthetic food for so long. But when we're seeing the 86ers, like with them, what we're seeing, like this is where it's shown is they're growing their own food. They're growing their own crops. Like they're eating real food all the time. But it really seems like in the districts, it's heavily processed food, whereas these 86ers, even though their lives are at risk, they have the freedom to eat food, things that taste good, and that's not something that's bland.
Well, that's something that I'm actually kind of tired of with these stories, is because somehow the opposition to like this altruistic fascism that you see in the military is this transcendental, like, natural foods, and I don't know what synthetic food doesn't taste like. It's like there's a middle ground, man. People need to eat. We can't grow enough food without destroying the planet. And if all I got to do is hit a little button and it spits out a cup of coffee, and I don't murder someone because I have my caffeine, that's a good thing.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's not. Like I just I guess the other thing that goes
I'm talking about the show, not you. Yeah. Your comments are. It makes sense. That stuff. It's just such it's such a tired theme that has been done over and over and over and over again, when it's just like there's a middle ground, and you're both wrong, and not both sides.
But both sides are wrong. Yeah, both sides. Yeah,
you're both wrong.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. I do, but like, I guess what I was just trying to say is like we see a lot of lifestyle choices that are made in the districts that the complete opposite is in for 86. Like in the districts, everyone has all the coloring is very uniform and white and blue. I mean, there's a couple other colors there, but nothing. White and blue are really the standout. Whereas for the 86ers, you have a variety of colors. You have your greens, you have your browns, you have your blacks. There's white and blue there too, but like there's bigger diversity there. Whereas in the districts, it's more uniformity and conformity.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, really just goes into playing on that whole, like, fascist belief that the military is trying to
No, everything's
go for.
hunky dory.
Yeah.
Everything's great. Not, there's no problems in the world. You just support us, and we'll keep everything cool. And that's where it's really cool, because I am all for an anti-militaristic message. I'm all for it. And I'm even for the other message of, like, how, like, being closer to all these other things and being having this community. I'm all for these things. That's why I kind of have my little rant of, like, there's a middle ground there. Because there are bad things that need to be stopped, but there's also, we need to sit back and just enjoy life.
Yeah.
Like, we need both these things.
Yeah.
But anyways, but that's the cool thing about, like, this show seems like Code Geass, to where it does a good job of, that's what the show really reminded me of, is it's like Iron-Blooded Orphans had the intelligence of Code Geass.
Yeah. That's I get that feeling too.
And that's what makes this show, like, so compelling to me, and why I kept watching it. When this first episode, I was kind of like, not very excited, but then I watched the next couple episodes, and I was just absolutely...
It takes off. Yeah, it really does.
Off. Even though this episode, I'm like, it was good enough. It just wasn't... It was just a lot of, like, the same tired... Like, it's the
same tired tropey stuff that you feel a lot.
It's like going into an isekai where the guy wakes up. Huh? I can't go into my MMO menu.
Yeah.
Ugh. Oh, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Oh, the bad guy's over there. Great, let's go live the life of the MMO now.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Sword Art Online is trash.
It is. It very much is. But I think as a first episode, like I said, this did a really good job. And I would highly recommend watch this and then keep watching. Yeah. I've also seen I've seen the next 2 episodes. It gets a lot better. This is just a starting ground. Like, here's your foundation work. And yeah, it's a lot of tropey stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of, you feel like you've seen it before somewhere else. But where it takes that stuff, I think they do a very good job with it. They do some unique things with it. There's a couple things you've seen before, but I mean, nothing is wholly original anymore.
Go check the show out. Absolutely awesome. Animation is awesome. Writing is good. Dialogue is very believable in that.
Oh yeah.
World building, top notch.
And the ending song is great. I loved it.
Yeah.
Like this is a great show. And it only gets better in my opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. We'd love to hear your thoughts on 86 in the comments down below. And while you're there, don't forget to hit that like button and hit that bell icon for future orders.
If you're interested in gaming, join us on Twitch. For updates, follow us on Twitter. Links are in the description down below.